a company so focused on health and wellness that we wouldn't get sick, but apparently we do.
Well, I like to think of it as if we weren't so focused on health and wellness, we'd be that much sicker.
We'd be sicker.
We'd be in a hospital
Yeah,
bed probably.
That's right. Probably. Probably. Some of us probably should be anyway. Some of us should be anyway. Well, it's good to be with everybody today, the day of recovery from the Final Four and
Yes.
all the events that were going around here in downtown Minneapolis. It was good to have people visiting and
Yes.
enjoy our wonderful city.
It was quite lively over the last few days. And
Lively is a good word. Yes,
a lot of great
lively.
energy. I mean, it was
For sure.
It was nice to see the city so packed full of people, and everywhere I looked, people were happy. They were smiling. They were nice. I didn't see
Yeah.
people acting, angry or arguing, or it was a very different environment from, say, when I've been in cities like LA or San
Fair.
Francisco when there's
Fair.
been a big event.
Yeah, that could be. That I can see that. I can see that. Good.
Yeah.
Well, for those of you that tuned in yesterday, we had a change your money mindset discussion.
Yes.
And today is part 2 of that discussion. And Hannah, you have been busy collecting a
yes.
few more tips for us to discuss today, right?
Well, of course, because the challenge is there are so many great tips
Yeah.
that it's really hard to choose. The way I've chosen these tips is I really tried to focus on tips that I had never really heard about or things that I haven't tried that are really simple but could make a big difference.
Yeah, good. Good. So what was the first one that jumped out at you?
So the first one that jumped out at me, again, it's another very common sense goal or tip, but for me, not so much. And it's to make bite-sized goals. So it's good to have your big goals, to buy a house or pay off those student loans or buy a new car, whatever those larger goals are. But along the way, you also want to have small bite-sized goals that are very achievable,
That lead up to those bigger goals or
that are short-term,
separate from those?
separate.
Separate.
So it's a way of feeling achievement and keeping motivated
Yep.
for those bigger goals
Okay.
because, as we know, those bigger goals can take
It
many
takes some
years,
time. So
depending.
while I'm saving for my house and I want to put my, good down payment down, what would an example of a bite-sized goal be?
So it could be something like, and obviously if it relates to that bigger goal, even if it's inadvertently, that's super helpful. So maybe paying off credit cards or other debts that are really small. And the more of that you pay off, more likely the better rates you're going to get on a house because your credit score will probably increase
Okay.
as you pay off that debt
Yep.
and increase the amount of money you have
You're able to
available to
save.
borrow.
Okay. So those bite-sized goals are best case scenario tied to the bigger goal.
Exactly. Now, it doesn't have to be. That was not part of the actual tip. But in my mind, it makes the most sense to try to connect
Yeah.
them. So then you're getting some motivation along the way while you're still working towards
Okay.
that bigger goal.
All right. Yep.
But it could also be, as I'm working on buying a house, I've been really working hard. I'm kind of stressed. So a small goal I'm going to have is to do a spa day and save up, $300 to go get a massage or two.
All right.
So then it's helping mental wellness.
Yeah. Those massages are amazing.
Exactly.
So good.
Exactly.
Good. All right. So bite-sized goals. Number 2.
So banish those toxic money thoughts.
Ooh.
This is
Banish
one of my
toxic
favorites.
money thoughts. You like it because it's like fun words.
Well, I do love the fun words, but I also
Banish
love,
toxic.
yeah, it's a little poetic,
Of course it is.
but it's also very positive. And so this was really all about having that positive mindset when it comes to money. And if you're sitting and thinking, oh my God, I've got this mountain of debt, I owe $200,000 and I'm never going to pay it off. Well, then you might never pay it off. But if you can look at it and say, okay, so these student loans put me through school, I got my education, which is awesome. and I'm going to work extra hard to pay this off. There are ways to turn it around, make
Sure.
it positive.
Bite-sized goals.
Bite-sized goals.
$200,000 is pretty overwhelming.
It
But
is.
if you think about it in $500 or $1,000 increments, it's not maybe so overwhelming.
They apply the same theory to weight loss. If you say, I need to lose 100 pounds, that's huge.
Yeah.
And you might just, drop everything and go get a donut before you've even completed the thought, because who can lose 100 pounds? That's insane. But if you say, okay, I want to lose 1% of my body weight in the next so many months or weeks.
Or I'm going to focus on this week, and this week I'm going to do these things, and I'm going to lose 2 pounds.
Exactly.
2 pounds is something that you
2
can
pounds
almost do overnight.
Or you say, you focus on that first 10 pounds.
Sure.
Okay, I'm going to lose 10 pounds. Then you lose that 10 pounds, and then you say, okay, now 10 more pounds, or maybe you increase it a little bit. But you make those bite-sized goals. Same with money.
Yep.
And as we know, I paid off my student loans, which was awesome once it was done.
Yeah.
And you've got kids in school and that are going to be going into college soon.
Yep.
Student loans today are expensive.
Yes, they are.
And
because college is expensive.
College has
because
gotten
most
more
people
expensive.
buy loans to pay for college so they can raise the rates.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's really
It's a racket.
expensive now.
Yeah.
In my last role, I worked in private student lending, and I was shocked to see how much people were borrowing for their education and how much their interest rates were.
Yeah.
And seeing people take out a $100,000 loan for a bachelor's degree at 13% interest, it just about gave me a heart attack. I thought, how is this poor person ever going to pay this loan off?
Yep.
So I can see where those student loans are really getting
spirals
up there.
out of control really quickly, especially like we talked about yesterday, where there's not a lot of education on money and finances and how to manage it. And so you're thinking, okay, well, I've got to go to school to get a good job, and they're willing to give me the money to go to school. Well, interest rates isn't the thing that they're thinking about.
Right.
They're thinking about the money and a payment. Well, I should be able to afford $500 a month once I get my really good job out of college.
Well, and especially when you're 18, 19, 20 years old, you're not even thinking about that. You're just saying, oh, I need the loan to go to school.
Yep. Otherwise,
okay,
I can't go to school.
I'll sign for the loan. Great.
Right.
You don't even think about it.
Yep.
I know I didn't think about it, but
No.
luckily for me, when I was in college, the rates were much more affordable.
Well, right. And I didn't do that. I didn't do the student loans thing. So that was a good blessing for me.
I did
Because
a
I went to school
combination-
later. I didn't go to school when I was 18 or 19. I went to college when I was already older.
I was a little bit
So.
older too.
Yeah.
I did a combination of financial aid, work study, student loans. Luckily, my student loans were nowhere near $100,000. And I also was able to get federal student loans. So
Yeah.
I consolidated my loans right after graduation. And I want to say my locked in rate was like 1.8%.
Yeah, that's
For the
almost
life of
that's
my
almost
loans.
free. That's almost free lending. So that's,
Exactly.
at that point, it's not a
Exactly.
big deal. 13% is a bigger deal.
That's pretty crazy.
It is a big deal. So, for those of you out there who know that Usurance, we provide life insurance to our clients. If you have student loans that were co-signed by a parent or loved one, you should think about life insurance to protect them just in case. And I realize that that's a big ask when you're already probably stretched to pay back the student loans, but there are plenty of stories out there where kids have had tragedies in their life and something happened and their parents were on the hook for the student loans and it put them into financial hardship. So consider it, and we'd love to talk to you about it if that's a thing.
Well, and the great news too is the younger you are when you get life insurance, the cheaper it is.
For sure.
And you can get term life insurance for 10 years. And if you're young and healthy, probably what, $10, $20 a month?
Yeah, if that, and it depends on the amount, right? So if there's very, very inexpensive rates, but that's also the time when your earning potential or your earning capacity is also less. So you have to,
Of course.
there's a balancing act, but it's really inexpensive. You're young, you're
Yes.
healthy, and very, very efficient way to protect loved ones. So,
well, and important to know that if you have a student loan and you pass and you have a cosigner, your student loan does not go away.
no, it doesn't.
Your parents or grandparents or whoever signed for it is going to have to pay that loan. So definitely look into that.
And there are some stipulations around private loans versus federal loans
Sure.
and those kinds of things. But once again, let's talk about it. Ask us a question and we'll walk you through it.
Absolutely.
All right. So number 3.
So number 3, you're going to love this one.
I probably will.
It's learning how to savor.
Learning how to savor.
So
Is that a play on words?
it's actually quite literal.
Okay. So savor like enjoy.
Enjoy. So
Okay.
enjoy, appreciate.
Mm.
Instead of constantly seeking to go out and get more, whatever that might mean for you,
Yeah.
appreciate what you
Yeah.
have.
Or worry.
Right.
Right.
Or
So
worry.
I think that's another thing that you can learn how to savor spending money versus learning how to savor budgeting your money. So like
Sure.
we talked about yesterday, having a spending plan versus a budget
Sure.
can also lead into helping you to enjoy the time, money, resources that you have,
Absolutely.
and then be able to really, then be able to think about it that way. So I like that, to learn how to savor.
Yeah, I mean, savor your friends and your family. If you're more focused on spending time with the people you love and it's just that time spent, you're going to be less worried about spending money to go out.
Yeah.
Because you can have fun just hanging out together, chatting like
Sure.
we are now,
Sure.
and really enjoy it. Whether that's buying a cookie and savoring every bite
Delicious.
so that you're not tempted to buy another.
Yeah.
Just really enjoying what you have and really being present with whatever it is you're doing.
Yeah, I think that leads to 2 or 3 different positive impacts. Number 1, it's good for your mental health. Which can lead to good, physical health. But the other thing it helps us to do is it helps us to manage expectations for ourselves. We're not
Sure.
worried about what John, Larry, and Susie have because
Yes.
we are really enjoying what we have.
Exactly.
And so it really provides us with a really positive outlook on what we are able to do. So I'm not, depressed and anxious because I
Yes.
don't have the brand new Ferrari, like, whoever, or have a giant house
or the newest iPhone, like we
newest
were talking
iPhone,
about
right?
earlier.
Or whatever, just learn how to enjoy what you have. Know that what you have is probably significantly more than a lot of people.
Absolutely.
So,
And also very good for your mental health. It's that gratitude practice, that appreciation, that's going to make you feel so much better, so much
Right.
less stressed. So learn how to savor.
savor.
Another great one, get a money buddy.
A money buddy.
So what I really love about this one is it ties back to what I mentioned earlier with weight loss. So often when you're trying to lose weight or start a new exercise routine, start a new habit with
Yeah,
any of that
having
sort of thing,
Someone that you.
having that buddy,
Mm-hmm.
super helpful.
Yeah,
So why not with money?
for sure. Yeah, that's really good.
So not only does it hold you accountable,
Yeah.
but also preferably you're getting a money buddy who is in a good financial state so that they can set a good example for you. Don't get a money if you have a spending challenge. If you're spending challenged and you really have trouble controlling yourself, do not get a money buddy that's the same way because inevitably one of you will trigger
Yeah.
the other.
Or at least a recovering.
Exactly.
Yeah, so I think that I think that I would probably expand it to money buddies.
Oh, absolutely.
I think one money buddy is probably good for one thing.
Sure.
But I think that the more people you have around you who are able to influence how you use, spend, and appreciate the money that you have,
Absolutely.
then it's probably better. So there's a very big stigma in our culture that you're not supposed to share your finances and not supposed to share
Right.
your money, and it's a big private secret. But the more that you can learn how to share appropriately, because that's the thing. I think appropriate sharing
Absolutely.
is good. The more that you're able to get the positive feedback that you need and the encouragement that you need to accomplish your goals will likely come from multiple people, not just one.
Absolutely. can't agree more.
Okay.
All right, so the next one would be, and this is if you're in the market for a job, but I thought these were great tips that I wish I had known when I was much younger, which is to get the company to name the salary first.
Mm.
Because,
Yep.
and I've heard this so many times over the years, and let's be honest, how often does that actually happen?
Yep.
It's not very often. Usually you
Why?
have to come up with some sort of figure first.
Why is that?
Well, I mean,
Because we want a job
exactly.
and we want to be paid. We want to be paid fairly.
Right.
So sometimes it's a nervous thing.
Right.
Like,
I
I
know
wanna-
for me, in the past, it has been a nervous
Yeah.
thing. As I've gotten older and experienced more of that interview process,
Yeah.
I've gotten better at it because
Mhm.
practice definitely helps. And also constantly doing research and talking to people who are
Yeah.
experts on the subject.
Plenty of research available out there.
Very helpful. But if at all possible, you always want to hold off being the one saying the price
Hmm.
because it gives you better power to negotiate.
Yep. Yeah, it totally does. There are yes, and I would say there are going to be times where you're fine to say whatever you want,
Right.
right? So if you have done the research and then you've done all the information gathering that you feel that you need to feel fairly compensated for the role that you're applying for,
Right.
for the capabilities that you have, the expertise that you can deliver, and the cultural fit to the organization, and you feel like you've got a good handle on that, then say.
Absolutely.
Then say. If this is what it would take for you to feel good about it,
Right.
then it really doesn't matter. If they say no, then you know that they weren't the right fit.
And that's a great point too, is it's really not as much about trying to be the person in front in some sort of power dynamic
Yeah.
versus really doing your homework, knowing what the role is worth, knowing what you're worth, and coming up with a realistic figure.
Yeah.
Obviously, everybody wants to make as much as possible,
Well, right.
but we know what's realistic and what's
Yeah.
not.
But there's also things where if people get into a situation where they are overpaid
Mm-hmm.
for their capabilities, then that can become stressful. And it can become a really, really negative thing for someone to be overly compensated, because then they place all these undue expectations on themselves, and the company probably does too, because they don't want to pay money for, a job that,
Right.
isn't being done very well or not being done to their expectations. So I think that there's probably good and bad to understanding your own worth, understanding who you are and what will make you happy, and then also understanding that there are different levels within organizations. Size of the company, profitability of the company,
Absolutely.
all these things play into it. So, and most jobs come with a range as well.
Absolutely. And it's really about doing your homework and also understanding that every situation is different.
Yeah.
If you're applying for jobs when there's an economic downturn
Hmm.
and it's much more competitive, then you may have to adjust
Yeah.
those expectations.
Or the opposite of that,
Or the opposite.
where like today, where the job market is really thin with
Right.
qualified candidates for some positions.
Exactly.
There's plenty of negotiation that can be done.
Well, and that leads into my last tip, which is tied into that, which is to negotiate for more.
Okay.
So negotiating for more doesn't necessarily always mean money.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe you can negotiate